Hey guys. I already forgot what your title is, Kayleigh, so remind me and then we can do another take. You can cut this part off. What was the title?
I think I said non-alcoholic beverage expert.
I like it.
At one point, I put libation specialist on my business card.
You can change it every time.
Well, and libation doesn't actually necessarily refer to an alcoholic drink, even though we kind of colloquially think of it that way.
I think we should keep this intro here. I think this is the right intro. Welcome to Thanks I Ate It podcast. Our guest today is non-alcoholic beverage expert Kayleigh Blome. How are you doing, Kayleigh?
I am doing good. It's been a busy couple of weeks over in my world. How are you doing?
I'm good. You look like a painting, I was saying earlier, with your beret and your low light. It's like bar lighting. You look like an AI GIF or something.
We'll just go ahead and say that the lighting today was a choice that I made on purpose and thought about ahead of time.
Nice. Jeff, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. I haven't been prioritizing food things this week. I would say I've been kind of really focusing on my musical practice, which feels really good. Trying to get more into the community in a lot of different ways, whether that means like jamming or just going to different events. Kayleigh and I are going to go to the Earshot Jazz jazz night in Pioneer Square after we record this. So
wow.
Just been trying to keep busy, hearing people play music, trying to let people hear me play music. So that's pretty much it. How are you?
Fun fact about me and Jeff, we both went to Berklee College of Music, but I just went for like the summer performance program. But you went for the whole program, yeah? Like you got a degree.
I went for a couple of years. I ended up I finished my bachelor's at another school that was not a music school, but I did go for a couple of years, and what I did after that was kind of adjacent to music too. So,
what's your main instrument, by the way?
I think voice.
Yeah.
I go back and forth depending on when you ask me about whether it's guitar or voice, but I think I've recently been told enough times that I am in fact a front man. Or a front person, if you will. And that's a hard thing to accept sometimes when it's like, whether you like it or not, you really are kind of supposed to be the one that is in charge of this whole thing.
Right.
So that's something I'm kind of trying to grow into because I think sometimes that doesn't come naturally to me, but there's a lot of room for growth, and that's what I try to be excited about.
I like the idea that like genetically you were a front man all along and you're just discovering it like as an adult getting a DNA test.
No, for real. That's like honestly what it is. I've been listening to a lot of stuff, people talking about music and learning and just being like a good person and how it's all connected, and some quotes from like a lot of people that I respect, like, past like jazz greats and stuff. They talk a lot about how like your music is only limited by how true you can be to yourself. And I think that I've done a lot of like practicing, and I've done a lot of like trying to respect the discipline of music, but I think that you have to also be yourself in a way that's truthful, to be able to be vulnerable with people and to express anything that's like worthwhile to them. So scary, but essential.
Wow, that got heavy.
I'd love to hear parallel things again. I'm currently on week 4 of The Artist's Way, and it's you can't read anything. So when you
Julia Cameron, right?
Yeah, sure is.
Yeah,
Never heard of it.
One.
It's intense, and week 3 there is definitely a moment where they're like reading your mind, which is a little uncomfortable, but it's that kind of great creative growth thing where you have to say, in order to be really special and creative and unique, you have to admit that you're not special and you have the same hangups that everybody else does.
It's heavy, you guys. This podcast got heavy. Jeez.
Jeff and I go way back as
I know, yeah.
We've collaborated on a lot of things. We've collaborated on music. We've collaborated on cocktails. We've collaborated on all kinds of things, and kind of pushing each other artistically is kind of I think a linchpin of our relationship.
It's natural. It's organic.
I would agree. This is like kind of how the conversation goes over the course of a cigarette with Kayleigh and I, is that we'll go from music to religion to alcohol to family and back, and then stomp on the cigarette and go back in and play pool.
Mm-hmm. Kayleigh, I was listening to your appearance on Crying in the Walk-In earlier, just to sort of think of questions to ask you. And I don't know if you remember that episode. It was probably a year and change ago.
I definitely remember recording it and going back to to certain moments, but listening to my own voice for an hour has kind of freaked me out. So I've only
It's
heard
hard, yeah.
from other people.
So I listened to the whole thing while I was working and just kind of refreshing because I've interviewed you before, and you mentioned both Jeff and me in the podcast, to my delight, because you were talking about working with Jeff in various instances, and you're like, and you know Jeff Kelly, and whoever was interviewing, it was like, oh yeah, Jeff Kelly. And then you mentioned a story that I had written about you ages ago, and I was like, I just randomly found this podcast episode. It delighted me to. It seemed appropriate.
Well, it was delightful to be interviewed, especially you were an early adopter, kind of understander of what I was going for. And that first evening that we met, I'll never forget, you weren't even planning to come to the bar where I was working. You were planning to go hang out at George and Dragon across the street. And I think there was some other event going on. And we just ended up getting to chatting really naturally, which was very cool.
Yeah, I'm a karaoke nerd, and they had an event, and they weren't doing karaoke. And me and Mark DeJoy were all mad, so we went across the street. Wonderfully. I'm glad we did. Thanks for that non-karaoke birthday, whoever had the event, because then I got to meet you.
Oh, yeah, it was great.
Yeah, I should read that story again, since I wrote it, like, a year and a half ago. I shouldn't talk about my weekend. My weekend was sad. My mother-in-law died.
I'm sorry
she was really old. She was a lovely lady. She was a music teacher, so she was 94. She still drove her car. She still played the organ at church. She died. She had a stroke while she was playing the organ at the Mormon church, and then called 911 herself, and then passed away at the hospital. But
just on a rock on sign, 100%. Like
that's hardcore. Like
I can't think of anything better, to be quite honest.
We just saw her on Thursday, and she passed away on Sunday, and she was standing in the kitchen out of her own volition, no walker, no wheelchair, on her 2 feet, telling us what's what, telling us all the names of her great-grandchildren. Like, she was sharp as hell to the very end, and I have to say she showed us how it's done. Like, we should all be so lucky to live in 94 and still be driving ourselves to the store or whatever. So, cheers to Naomi. She was a cool lady.
Yeah, aspirational.
Let's talk about you, Kayleigh. So you were a bartender for 1,000 years. You're a rep now. Yeah. Mm-hmm. An NA rep for NA products, or all boozes?
So I actually rep a whole book. So we sell wine and spirits and non-alc. The company that I work for now is called Veers. I started working for a company called Prime Wine and Spirits, and we merged about a year ago with Veers. So we're just kind of a bigger beast now. Part of the reason why I wanted to work for Prime specifically was because they were a really early adopter of some of the best NA products that I had tasted. And when I first made that very beginning menu of NA options, there was very, very little on the market. I had Seedlip Giffard Syrup Aperitif. And so having reps coming in from Prime to say, hey, we see that you're doing this thing. We think that's cool. You might care about this thing. And getting to have that conversation in concert was one of the things that made me kind of want to make that transition. On top of, I had an injury about a year before I stopped bartending, where I would not be able to bartend as long and have as long of a bartending career that some other people do. I actually also wasn't a bartender for terribly long. I think I was only actually bartending for about 3 years. But before that, I had 5+ years in the coffee industry, doing beverages there, creating menus and all those kinds of things. So I've had a very odd career trajectory. Yeah.
Where are you from? Seattle?
Not originally. I'm from Claremont, California, which is a town as far northeast in LA County as you can get while still being in LA County. And I moved to Seattle in 2011.
In 2011, what brought you up here?
It seemed like a good idea when I was 19.
It was. You were right.
I thought I'd be here for a couple of years, and then it's been 15.
Did you ever try to go back? Because when I have left Seattle, I tried to live in New York City for a while, and I came back, and then I tried to live in Santa Barbara for a while, and I came back. Did you ever try to come back to LA, or have you just been like, this is the spot?
No, I've never wanted to move back.
No?
Love certain aspects about LA, but Seattle was a better fit for me in a lot of ways, okay. Especially because I didn't drive for quite a while.
Yeah, I don't drive.
I just didn't.
I still don't.
I had to get a car to be a sales rep for the job that I have currently. I had to buy.
Oh, yeah.
So I got a Mini Cooper, and I can parallel park anywhere except for tonight, which is why I'm as early as I can.
So how did you get from being a regular ass bartender to focusing on NA stuff?
It was funny enough. It was an assignment, and I was actually technically not even behind the bar. And Jeff, you can attest to this. I was doing prep. I was working in the kitchen. I was hosting and seating, and I was still learning how to bartend. So I knew the language of drinks that didn't have spirits better than I knew the language that did have spirits. And our manager said, "Oh, hey, we want to do an NA thing. You know how to do that. Why don't you do it?" And I proceeded to try as hard as possible to bring out some things that were going to be really good, because it was my chance to show people, hey, like, I know that I'm the new guy here. I know that I'm new in this industry, and you don't know me, and you don't think I have a lot to bring to the table, but I'm going to bring something that will impress you because this is what I want to do. And everybody really liked that first round of drinks, which is very generous.
Well, I want to jump in and say that looking back on that, Elaine, who I'm assuming you're talking about, maybe Adam, wasn't expecting you to go as hard as you did. Like, we weren't even trying to turn Stampede into a place that was especially known for NA cocktails or anything. Like, it was already a pretty established cocktail bar for what it was. And just due to, like, the effort that you put in individually, the bar became that, like, immediately. Like, that very menu kind of became one of the premier NA menus in the city. And
there were only
since
3
then,
drinks in it back then.
well, and then it just kept growing from there, though, because I think people understood that they were good, and the bar understood that they were good, and they understood that you specifically were talented at this, and it just kept growing from there. So I think that it's funny that it all kind of did grow out of somebody asking you to, I guess you viewed it as proving yourself, but they were just like, you seemed the best suited to do this. And, back then a lot of bartenders were probably like, I don't even really want to make an NA drink right now. So, like, let's have the person that just came here from coffee do it, because they'd probably be better suited for it. But then you really just made the most of that opportunity as possible.
That's pretty like me. And it was also kind of an Ouroboros situation where I made those drinks. They got on the menu. There was a single page on it. I'll never forget. It was the Now That's What I Call Cocktails menu, because that was the menu that was like the CD lyric booklet in the beginning. And I remember that it had its own page because there are a couple different moments that stand out, but one that I'll often tell, I probably told on Crying in the Walk-In, and I've told in all my NA cocktail classes. There was this, we had these big bench seats at the time, and it was clearly this office happy hour that was coming in. And along with them, kind of like trudging behind, was this woman who was extraordinarily pregnant, like skinny lady Kelly. And she just had this look about her like, oh my God, I have to sit through this happy hour. It's going to be so boring. It's going to be so awful. And I'm telling everybody about the menu because I was just serving at the time. I wasn't even behind the bar when this first menu got launched. And I'm telling everybody about all the cocktails and all the pages. And then I get to turn to her and I get to turn to a particular page and say, and we made these for you.
Aww.
Like, here's like 3 options that are really great for you. And immediately I could see her like whole demeanor change. And then her drink came out and it looked really gorgeous because it had this gigantic mint on top. And she's like sassing everybody at the table, like, oh my gosh, your drink looks so great. Like, she's like, oh yeah, it was just such a great reminder of like, we do this for hospitality, and part of hospitality is letting people know you thought about them before they got there. And there was this whole group of people who we didn't think about before they got there, and who often got the message, well, we don't want you. And saying, oh my gosh, I'm so excited you're here. I have something wonderful to share with you. Like, was such a reinvigorating moment. Like, I wanted to try hard and I wanted to make things that were good. And then I fell in love with NA after I made that first menu.
Was that at Stampede?
Yeah, that was all Stampede.
Okay. Jeff, were you there? Are you a witness?
Yeah,
I can attest.
There. I don't know if I'm the one who made the drink, but I very well could have been. We had a lot of days back then where it was just you and me, so.
Yeah, there were at least three days a week where it was just the duo.
Yeah. And that was like a 2 p.m. to 2 a.m. situation. That was like early Stampede before COVID. So those were like 12-hour shifts. So we got to know each other really fast and really well.
Yeah. Let me look at my little list here. Do you want to talk about coffee at all? I mean, I feel like that is pertinent because it informs the rest of your career, yeah?
No,
I'm
it's
always
actually
interested in coffee, yeah.
incredibly pertinent. What do you want to know specifically? And then I will go on a tangent.
What was your first coffee job like, and what interested you about coffee in general? How'd you get interested in I mean, I assume it's like fine third wave coffee. Is that what we're talking about?
Oh, I'm so glad you think that about me. So it is a funny back and forth conversation with my mom of us trying to remember when in high school precisely it was that I started drinking coffee every morning. But I remember even like being a little kid, and I loved the way that my grandma sugared and creamed her coffee whenever we were at a restaurant, and just tasting a little spoonful of it. Always loved it. Um, and living in Seattle, of course, you always want to get the coffee shop job. And I applied to so many independent coffee shops, and no one would hire me. So I got a retail spot until a friend of mine who worked at the Starbucks drive-through only in Ballard did a recommendation for me. Killed that interview. I worked at the drive-through for a few months, and then I worked at the Starbucks Reserve Roastery around the time that it opened for about 3.5 years.
Wow. So where did you move after Starbucks?
So after Starbucks directly, I was at Seattle Coffee Works for a while, and now that they're no longer around, I can say that was a wild experience.
Yeah?
I did definitely get fired from that job. They already didn't like me, and then I got mono and ended up in the ER after an ill-fated trip to an urgent care. Did that whole thing on, those episodes of House where they say if it's lupus and we give them this, they'll die, or if it's this autoimmune thing, that happened to me. They gave me antibiotics, and Epstein-Barr is actually an autoimmune virus.
Oh, no.
And nearly died. I moved on to, we'll say, a shop that shall not be named, that is in downtown Seattle, and that was where I ended up managing. But on the whole, probably not my favorite experience.
No, but you still loved coffee, even though throughout these quasi-shitty jobs, right? You still loved making coffee. That was your interest?
Well, I loved making coffee excellently. And I loved also doing it in the very touristy areas as I did meant that you kind of couldn't be pretentious because people were coming to these coffee shops because they loved coffee, because they wanted it, but you had to meet them where they were at as far as what their understanding was. So I remember specifically when I was picking what coffee would be our regular brewed coffee, our regular drip, it needed to be something that was going to fit the expectation of this is Seattle, this is a great cup of coffee. But also, if somebody just turns around and puts a bunch of cream and sugar in like they do at home, it still has to be a great cup of coffee. And like a lot of those really like bright, really lovely single origin coffees just don't react well to that treatment. And trying to tell somebody who's just ordered a cup of coffee at 7 a.m. that they're doing it wrong is not really the best option.
No. And you were writing for Imbibe for a while also?
I did not write for Imbibe. I was interviewed twice. I think it was 2 Octobers in a row. There was one time they interviewed me about all of my favorite like NA ingredients at the time. My favorite.
You were written about in Imbibe. What are your favorites?
Imbibe,
I should have read it.
This was my expertise, and then the next year they did a special on one of my drinks and published it, photograph, recipe, and everything.
That's another of my questions: is what are your favorite ingredients that maybe we wouldn't normally see in an NA cocktail? Like, do you have bespoke certain ingredients that reflect your own, that are your signature?
Oh, it's funny. Yeah, if we're not talking products, actually I have so many fun things to talk about because I talk about products all day as a rep. But some of my favorite things to reach for when NA cocktailing, now you have to go with me on this, but it is vinegar.
Yeah, I love vinegar.
I think a lot of people get a little bit scared of it because they think of the shrubs have a really high vinegar percentage. But pretty much like any type of wine that you have, there's going to be a vinegar of it. And that's a really wonderful way to add a lot of nuance that you don't otherwise have access to. So I use really fancy ones if I can get my hands on it. You'll see things like a champagne vinegar or like yuzu vinegar, or I use seasoned rice vinegar a lot because that also adds salinity, and that little bit of salt is also a flavor enhancer. But Pedro Jimenez sherry vinegar is my absolute favorite.
Ooh, I was thinking of buying a sherry vinegar the other day. I'm going to write that down. That sounds so good.
And then on the sweet side, or bittersweet side, because that's acid and aromatic. The sweet side or the bittersweet side, I love to use a pomegranate molasses. And that's just great because it's intense in all of the directions you need it to be. It's a little sweet, it's a little tart, it's a little bitter. or just a classic molasses is a really fun one as well, because it adds some depth, some funkiness, and a little bit of bitterness, which is kind of hard to achieve on your own consistently.
Do you have to loosen up the molasses? Is it like too stodgy?
Oh,
Or
it's always both of those ingredients. I always will mix into some syrup or shrub or something beforehand
Mhm.
to even out the consistency. Because if you get the proportion wrong, it can really throw your drink. For
Yeah.
molasses, it's kind of been dependent on the drink, but when it comes to vinegar, my rule of thumb is a bar spoon per drink, no more.
Oh, okay. Just a bit. Jeff, do you have input on using molasses in cocktails?
I was gonna say molasses, first of all, is an incredible flavor. Anything related to like daiquiris or like pairing it with a specific kind of rum, like using a molasses syrup that is molasses in addition to regular simple syrup, like Kayleigh said, is a wonderful flavor. I think it kind of is adjacent to like a licorice or like an anise flavor as well, which is one of my favorite kind of categories of flavor in general in cocktails. But yeah, it's interesting you bring up the consistency point for molasses, because I'm reminded of a story like very early on in my bartending days, before I was even like, I don't even know if I was actually getting shifts at a bar, but I was able to bartend at a party, like a private party, and I made this cocktail menu, and I remember it had just like a bee's knees on it that had jalapeno. I think it was a tequila bee's knees, but I had it with jalapeno. So for anybody who doesn't know, that's just lemon and honey with a spirit. It's usually gin, but I didn't turn the honey into honey syrup, and so I had the tins that I was just like muddling jalapeno and honey together to order. And like after a couple drinks, I realized like, oh, this is a horrible mistake. Like nobody's drink has any honey in it, and all the honey is just in the bottom of my tin. But the jalapeno flavor sure got out, so now it's just like lemon, jalapeno, and tequila, which is not very potable.
That sounds awesome, though. Maybe maybe I'm not understanding correctly, but I would fuck with that. That sounds good.
Well, it was. I mean, it's not a very creative idea, and it is an awesome idea if you have honey.
Yeah, if the honey's actually incorporated in the drink and not stuck on the tin, it sounds delightful.
Right. So I guess to recap, in order to add honey to a drink, you need to make a honey syrup, which I've been at bars that just use honey and water. I've been at
Yeah.
bars that use honey and a specific kind of sugar and water. Either way, there needs to be water involved to turn it into something that can be poured into a drink. You can't just like, although kind of a cheat, you can use citrus. I could have gotten around it if I had literally just had honey and citrus in a tin, and you can use a spoon to shake that and turn it into almost like, I guess, a cordial is what I would call that, because it's like citrus and sweetener in one thing, but it needs to dissolve. And as soon as you add alcohol, the honey's not going to dissolve like that. I don't know the science behind it, but I'm pretty sure like alcohol disrupts the process of something dissolving that would dissolve in water. Do you know anything about that, Kayleigh, or am I just making that up?
I don't know, because my guess would have been temperature, because I know that when a lot of viscous fluids get cold, they're going to seize up and be less likely to integrate into something, unless you can make up for the lack of, I guess, like physics-wise, you can make up for the lack of energy and heat with an increased energy in shaking, like in motion.
Well, especially because the tin's going to be cold too, because you're putting ice in it. So, like, if you're talking about temperature seizing up something, yeah, once again, the only way to do it properly is to make a syrup out of it ahead of time. But if you really are just going to throw honey into a tin or into a glass that you're going to like make a cocktail out of, you have to then put the citrus in and then blend the citrus and the honey with like a spoon or a whisk or something before you add any other ingredients, or else you're not going to get the honey incorporated at all.
What would you have done in that situation, Kayleigh, if you had trying to make a jalapeno bee's knees with no honey? What would you have thrown in, agave or something?
Oh, yeah, probably. Yeah, just any other sweetener. It's not really going to be a bee's knees if it doesn't have the honey.
Yeah.
But if I had a blend, it depends. Do I have a blender? Am I shaking it at the party? There's a lot of permutations of how
That's
we
true.
solve the problem. And we have together. I remember one time Jeff and I were working on a drink, and we tasted every individual ingredient with every other individual ingredient to figure out what combination made it taste like peanut butter.
Oh my god, I know exactly what you're talking about. It was like I wanted to do this thing because I was making spritzes for people back then.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say I know part of it was Pasubio, and I want to say the other part of it was like Benin de Brazil. Is that possible? It was like banana and pasubio, which is like a vino amaro that has kind of like a berry.
So that's what made the drink then taste like a
Peanut butter and
PB&J
jelly.
sandwich, which was also not what you were going for. And we figured out the thing that made it taste like peanut butter was the combination of kava and the
Right.
acid-adjusted delicata squash syrup that I made.
Oh my God.
So that cocktail ended up having Miller High Life in it instead.
No, see, this is the thing, is those are two separate things. Like, there was never... The delicata squash syrup was a late addition, and that was when we had already decided the cocktail I was making before was not going to work. Because as, like, a highball, the pasubio and the banana de Brazil, which I think there might have been, like, one other ingredient as well, with just soda water, is good. But then when you added the kava, like you said, like that just changed something. Like it's a little bit like bready all of a sudden. There's like this extra acid that wasn't there before. And yeah, it was just one of those things where like, damn, that went so wrong with like one decision. Like we had a decent idea. This idea does not exist anymore. Like that was like a first sip, toss it down the drain type of situation. And then we came up with the gosh, what was it called? It had such a good name.
The burden of proof.
I'm so glad you remember. It was the burden of proof. We had some good cocktail names back then because it was a low ABV drink. It was the Botanist malted gin. I want to say it was the Bruto Americano as the red bitter, which is kind of like a more like herbal by St. George red bitter. The Delicata squash syrup, and then it also had Miller High Life.
And Miller High Life. I feel like I have a Miller High Life in my fridge. That's exactly what I'm going to do with it. I'm going to make a cocktail out of it. Genius. Whose idea was the Miller High Life?
That was mine.
Who's to say?
It's you.
I remember. I just remember because this is an era in collaborating where Jeff knew, I mean, and still does, knew all the classic cocktails, knew all the builds of all the things, knew how everything on the back bar tasted. I knew what my taste was, and I knew which flavors would work together, or I could imagine and conceive of flavors mixed together. And I remember it very particularly of me saying, or we looked each other in the eyes, and I think we both had the thought, but I was the first person to say out loud, it's got to be the Miller High Life. And then we both laughed really hard and put it together. And I think it was kind of a moment of you as kind of like a mentor of mine, realizing that I kind of knew what I was talking about, even if it was a little bit crazy.
Well, that's what I like about you, and that's what I like about bartenders in general, where like sometimes the answer to a question sounds stupid, but like sometimes it can just be fun. Like the fun of that can supersede whatever pretentiousness might come with a different answer. You know, it's like, yeah, the Miller High Life is a great choice, not only because it functionally works in the drink, but also like how silly is that? Like how fun is it that we got to decide that was like a viable choice? So I guess in that moment, I kind of knew you were like down to clown like that, I guess. It was just like,
that's the name of the podcast.
Yeah.
You cannot take this seriously too. Like, that's awesome. So let's like not take this seriously, but also take it seriously at the same time.
Well, and I carry that with, I think, my NA menus as well. There was the deeply pragmatic and practical element of, just like any standard menu, I want to make sure there's something for every audience member who's coming to see this. I want there to be something for somebody who really loves to drink but isn't having a drink right now for whatever reason. I want there to be a drink for somebody who has never had an alcoholic drink in their life, but it's still going to be sophisticated and it's still going to feel like a cocktail. It took a little while for me to get comfortable making things that were straight up sweet, but I remember one of the first like actually sweet NA drinks that I made tasted like a 50-50 bar, and it was delicious.
Oh, that sounds killer. I want that. What bar were you at?
This was all at Stampede, actually.
I was going to say, that was the Martian Mojo, right?
That was the Martian Mojo.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's my greatest asset as a bartender is my memory. Like I knew all the I could make the burden of proof right now. Like you made the syrup
Really?
out of the delicata squash, but like yeah, I just remembered all the stuff that was in it. I think there was like a quarter ounce of a specific kind of scotch in it as well because it had the malted gin, the Botanist, and I was gonna say like I feel like I remember the specs too. Like
I think I have all those old menus somewhere. We should look at them at some point. I kept all these recipes in case I ever need it, and somebody has asked for my pecan orgeat at some point.
Ooh. Everything you're saying, I'm just like, ooh, I want to go. They're like, what bars around here where I can just request pecan orgeat?
Pistachio, sunflower, pepita orgeat was one of my favorites.
My God.
And that went into, do you remember the name? I think it was Persian something. I can't remember the name.
The pistachio orgeat drink.
Yeah, the pistachio orgeat soda, cardamom, and rose one.
That was good. I don't remember the name, but I remember making it because it had soda water on it, and it got like so. There was like such a light, like bubbly situation, almost like when you pour sparkling wine too fast, and it just kind of creates this like really loose, like bubbly structure on the top of the drink. But like for some reason with that one, it was like just tight enough and like a nice contrast to the color of the drink that it like really worked, and it wasn't like off-putting. And then we put the big like pink or like the purple orchid that every bar was ordering back then, like right on top, you know? So yeah, that was a good one too.
And that drink, I think I love because it was inspired from a very different place. Is I have a friend who actually works in the R&D beverage department at Starbucks corporate, and we worked together when we worked at the roastery at the same time. And she lent me this book called Gazos, which was about, I think, like Iranian, like fermented fruit syrup drinks, and they're really gorgeous and are topped with soda and just tons and tons of gorgeous garnishes. And there was a whole chapter that was talking about nut-based syrups and like those lovely creamy elements, and bringing new flavors was delightful. And I'll often tell people in my classes, don't limit your inspiration in cocktails or non-alcoholic cocktails or anything. Don't limit it to just the specific sphere in which you're working. And we were all talking about music earlier, right? Like it's the same thing. If you only listen to music from one genre and try to make music from that genre, it's going to sound really trite. But if you listen to things from other places, if you look at beverage histories from other cultures, if you read a book on cooking a totally different cuisine, you're going to get a lot more interesting ideas.
I like that analogy as a drink as a song. Each little cocktail is a song, and you can draw from it. That's cute.
I don't want to start another 15-minute conversation offshoot from this, but I will say that I think that the core of Kayleigh and I's relationship immediately and since then has been that we do love the parallels between being creative in that way behind the bar with like the passion that we both have for music. Like I think that we've found so many ways to talk about the two things at the same time. And it's one of my favorite things to do. So I think that we both just can talk each other's ear off about all that specifically.
Kayleigh, are you also a musician?
Yes.
I didn't know that part. I assumed it, but...
Well, I mean, my strongest instrument is my vocals, and in some ways my only instrument is my vocals. I play guitar incredibly mediocrely, but I grew up with a dad who had been a professional musician before I was born, and definitely am a big lover of music. So it does inform how I think about the world. It's one of those lenses.
Are you guys karaokeers at all?
I am.
Kayleigh is.
Yeah. I used to go to a lot of karaoke, like 3 times a week. I don't lately.
I used to go to Waterwheel every week when I was working.
Oh my god. Yeah, we used to go to Waterwheel. Yeah, Steven, my partner, used to live over there, and we went to Waterwheel a lot.
Yeah, well, KJ Konami is just...
Mm-hmm.
If you ever hear her sing, you feel like you should have paid a lot of money to hear her sing. And then she hypes you up while you sing, and I can't think of anything better.
Waterwheel's done, yeah, as of New Year's?
Yep.
They're over. Yeah, that's sad. Where's your go-to lately? Karaoke?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't go nearly as much as I used to.
No.
I think it was really big in my coffee days, and then I got some of, I think, the performance yayas out of me when I got to be behind the bar, because I loved getting to, like, making the connections of different people in the bar, like, figuring out different music to play. Like, that was kind of a certain element of, like, you're hosting the party when you're singing karaoke sometimes.
Yeah.
And I have a car now, so I can sing there. When I started playing karaoke all the time, I had 5 roommates, and I'm generally a pretty considerate person to live with. So when I want to sing at the top of my lungs, I go to the bar.
Good. I was going to Hattie's on Thursdays, which is Suze and Kay. They go back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where I was going. I was going to George and Dragon for a minute. I don't know if they still have it. But...
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love Crescent because it's a 7 nights a week karaoke gay bar, and you will never have more tonal whiplash than somebody singing a 4-minute anime intro fully in Japanese, which I do happen to know all the words to, followed directly.
Oh, the person is you. I see.
I didn't sing it, but you can smile. And then immediately after a song, maybe this time from Cabaret, sung in such a beautiful way that I'm literally brought to tears.
Amazing.
And then after that, somebody sings Nickelback. It's great.
Yeah, last time I was at Crescent, I was hanging out with a friend, and she was talking to some guy, and he mentioned that he was uncircumcised, and my friend was like, well, can we see? And we all went to the bathroom to go look. That's what I think of when I think of the Crescent.
Thank
It
you
was
for
probably
memory.
27 or so. Yeah, FYI. It's a food podcast, folks. The Crescent is fun, but the Crescent is like a 2-hour rotation. Like you're there for the night if you want to sing more than one song. Yeah, you're camped out.
Yeah, it's not if you want to sing a whole bunch of times.
Right.
But we have private karaoke rooms for that, especially if you have any friends who speak Korean. Then you can go to Star Karaoke in the U District.
That's true.
Seattle's best karaoke, actually. I that one downtown. You get a
You get a banquet license.
banquet license. You bring your own drinks. I sell booze for a living, so I got all the best drinks already.
Yeah. I met my partner at SBK, actually. Steven was going with a work group, and he was the only one singing, and I was brought in as a ringer, although I didn't work with them. My friend worked there, and she was like, come, the company's playing, we were doing mandatory fun, and the company's going to buy us a karaoke party. Why don't you come down? And it was me and Steven were the only people who were singing. and Lindy West was there, and she sang something from The Little Mermaid, and then it was back to me and Steven going back and forth, and then finally he was like, hey, you really nailed those melismatic runs. And I was like, you're a musician. Did you major in music? And he was like, yeah, my parents are music teachers, and we just talked for like 7 hours. So, yeah. Anyway, SBK, bring your own snacks too.
Bring your own snacks, which is great because there is edamame in the guacamole at Rockbox, and I am intolerant to soy, and that has tripped me up before.
I feel like I can't get out of Rockbox for under $100, no matter what. Like, no matter what I do, if I get one drink, it's $100. It just, the meter drops at 80, and then you get a drink, and then you're done. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I have in big letters, heard you like Jell-O shots. Kayleigh, I hear you like Jell-O shots.
That's so funny. I was actually talking about Jell-O shots earlier today. Alongside the we didn't expect Kayleigh to go so hard on the NA menu was we didn't expect Kayleigh to go so hard on the Jell-O shots. I think even pre being asked to make the NA drinks, it was everybody's job. Everybody at different points made the Jell-O shots, right? Jell-O shots were kind of a, hey, welcome, like, hey, we messed up, like, hey, you're waiting for a second, or happy birthday, whatever. It was just like a little thing. It was, practically a way of, oh, we're not going to use this bottle for anything else. But also, very pragmatically, the Jell-O shots were always good because that was a great, hey, we know you've been waiting a while for your drink. Say something went wrong. Here, have this Jell-O shot. And people would say, oh, this is good. If your Jell-O shot is good, I bet your cocktails are amazing. And they were. So it was really fun in that. And the first time I made Jell-O shots, all I remember is that it was orange Jell-O. I think I used some kind of rum as a base. And I remember microplaning fresh nutmeg into the batch and then making the Jell-O shots. And I don't remember who it was. One of the managers tasting the first one and going, okay, so Kayleigh's the only one who makes Jell-O shots now. And then it was just like 3 years.
Yeah. This is sort of a ridiculous question. I think I know the answer, but like, do you personally drink? Are you a drinker?
It is not a ridiculous question at all. I do drink. I am a lightweight. I've always wanted to be there for the party, but I don't really like getting beyond a little bit tipsy. So in some ways with my NA, historically, I found that it was a benefit because, to use a food metaphor, I wasn't the lifelong vegetarian telling you that this tofurkey was really good. I'm somebody who also drinks straight spirits or cocktails, and I'm making something very importantly that is comparable. And for a long time, I was actually very against a lot of analog NA spirits or NA spirits that are trying to one-to-one mirror existing spirits because I felt it was setting you up for comparison in a way that was going to be very disappointing. I have had a few products that do change my mind on some of those spirits. I don't think anybody has cracked a brown spirit like a whiskey or a scotch yet. I haven't had any that I feel play exactly the way that you want. I've had some that are kind of close, but they're a little bit more culinary and they're less of an analog, which is fine. There's other ways to add like smokiness or richness, but just nothing that's quite that yet.
I wanted to ask you about functional spirits now that you said that, because that's something that I noticed that we have at the last couple bars I've worked at, and it's come a long way with what that is from like what like Seedlip or like Wilderton or even like Pathfinder, which are like, totally good for what they are. But like you're talking about things not replacing alcohol, but having a separate purpose. Like, have you encountered, like, would you say that the functional spirit is even like a word that you use often, or like, is that kind of a subcategory of non-alcoholic spirits?
Well, it's definitely a subcategory, and it's something that we kind of always knew would happen. Is for better for worse, we're just kind of starting now to come out of the wild, wild west of NA stuff. Um, every time I've done a tasting with, actually, even when I was bartending, I had a tasting with the person who was the brand manager within my company, like pre-merger, of just a whole bunch of samples of different NA things that he had, and 90% of all of it was horrific, like really, really bad, which was often my pitch early on when people were like, why would anybody want NA stuff? It's all terrible. And I would say, yeah, most of it is. And they'd say, oh, immediately I trust you much more because you can admit that you're not, or not
Right.
it. So we are now getting to a point where we're starting to have kind of some more defined things. So functional, analog, aromatic are all kind of different ones that we've had. When it comes to functional, I feel a little bit complexly about it. I'm not going to lie, especially in a bar environment. I think the functional ones are really great for, or can have the potential to be great for the home consumer. But I know, for example, kava is a really popular one. And kava,
Kava with a K.
yes, Kava, kava root. And it shouldn't be mixed with alcohol because they both interact on the liver. And I also know all the studies that most people who use NA do also drink, and they're most likely to zebra stripe. So going back and forth between a full falutin cocktail and a non-alcoholic drink. So again, coming back to the hospitality of like in the coffee shop, of not wanting to tell somebody they're wrong, like telling somebody they're wrong. Like in a hospitality setting, I don't know that saying, hey, I probably wouldn't mix these, or, oh, hey, who's having that, and kind of having to police that is what's best for people. I think as the education around it gets better and the visibility gets better, that's definitely a conversation to circle back to. But just like there's, certain supplements in some drinks, like maybe somebody isn't drinking because they take a medication or they have a medical
Right.
issue. And I'm not going to be asking somebody about any private reasons why they are or are not drinking or are moderating their drinking. So those can be really wonderful solutions, especially in ready-to-drink cocktails at home where you're picking that for yourself. Uh, and there could be really like fun and delightful options. But I have some wariness around it. I hope that's not a joy kill of an answer.
No, it's not. It's really interesting because I actually was going to say the thing that I've found most intriguing about the functional spirits or the NA spirits is that they are a separate thing from alcohol, and when you talk about like, I was thinking there might even be a world eventually where like you put both those things in the drink, not just because like, I don't know, it just seems like a totally different function. Like if there's other stuff that's going on in the bottle and it has a unique flavor, there's only a matter of time until somebody's going to decide like, oh, this is actually a really cool thing to use in this version of a cocktail that also has alcohol in it, and it's got like the adaptogens or it's got like whatever mushrooms or magnesium or whatever they're putting in it. But yeah, I didn't really think about those things having a negative reaction, specifically with the kava one, because it's like if you're saying it's bad on your liver, like, is it just as bad as having two alcoholic drinks? Because like alcohol is just bad for your liver in general. So it's kind of funny to be like, oh, like this kava is not very good for you. You should probably just have like a shot of like
Right.
110 proof whiskey instead. Like.
Good point.
And I don't know if they're equal or different or compounding, but like some people might not be drinking because they're concerned about their liver. Some people, also those things, like kava specifically, do cause a reaction in your body that does have kind of a perception of altered state. And somebody who's not drinking might be the kind of person who really doesn't want that.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Do you guys know about an NA spirit called the Livener by Three Spirit? Do you know this stuff? I just read I got my cocktail column back at The Stranger, and last month I wrote about a cocktail at Lady J that uses it. The cocktail's called Live and Let Dry, and it's pretty dry and herbaceous. But I like to unpack all of the, as you know, because I wrote about one of your cocktails, all of everything that's in it and where it comes from and what's in it. And that stuff is really interesting to me. It's got a caffeinated holly leaf in it. It's kind of like a tea, which I guess a lot of NA spirits are sort of tea adjacent or like a tea blend. But I want to buy it. Like, I want to know more about it. Do you ever use it? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I used to have a bottle of Nightcap, which is another one from Three Spirit, and that was actually from one of my aforementioned tastings with the brand manager handles our NA. I really liked that one, and I think it's got ginger and ashwagandha, and that one I just liked the taste of it on its own, and it was just that kind of like warm chest feeling that was like a really nice little finish out to the night. I haven't used the caffeinated ones, but I have tasted Livener before, and I did like it.
We use lavender at the bar. Yeah, yeah. We have, or sorry, not the lavender. We have the nightcap at the bar as well, and I'm
Okay.
familiar with that product. And I definitely agree with Kayleigh that it tastes really good by itself.
Can I come down and try the cocktail at Fearn?
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. I'll find out when you're there. I am often connecting in Pioneer Square to the train to go to Tacoma, and I always think I'm going to stop by and bother you, but then I don't do it. So now I will. Now that I know that you have Three Spirit. What else is on this list? Favorite term for a mocktail? Because we all hate the word mocktail, right?
Yeah,
Everyone hates it universally.
it is. Yeah, it is universally hated, but I'm never going to cringe at anybody who says it because they're trying to connect to an idea. And
Right. They're trying to, explain
uh,
what they want.
largely, it's just because it's really easy to say it like crinkling your nose, like mocktail, and it's kind of a word that is largely with an era where people weren't putting the same amount of effort into making a craft cocktail.
Yeah.
And again, cocktail is just a word that means like a mixture of things.
Yeah.
So we just say non-alcoholic cocktail or
Yeah.
zero proof cocktail, or any of those kinds of things.
Booze free. Virgin. I bet that one's not popular either.
No, virgin is not popular. Nobody wants
Icky. Yeah.
to drink something about alcohol is related to other areas of their life.
Yeah. I liked Foxtail, which is like a faux cocktail.
Oh
It's
yeah,
cute.
like cocktail or fotail. Yeah.
I'm trying to make it happen, but it's not happening.
I noticed that you wrote that in your article because it was like FAUX or
Yeah.
FOX, and I was kind of like, that's really clever, but I bet
Isn't it
nobody's going to
cute?
say that.
No one gets it. No one ever
Yeah.
gets it, and I have not succeeded in getting it to catch on.
Yeah, I mean, non-alc is not the catchiest thing, and yet that seems to be the top one right now. The amount of times I'm writing N/A in my day-to-day life is
Yeah. I don't like writing that either. I agree. I dislike it. Let's think of something catchier. Foxtail is adorable. People would love it if only they read my column. Mocktail feels like I don't think this is true, but it feels like it came from a Red Robin menu. Like it sounds like something that would be it's corny in the way that Red Robin is corny. It's sticky. At the top this says USBG questions. Are you still affiliated with the USBG? The Bartenders
Oh.
Guild?
Yeah, I unfortunately Mondays when the USBG meetings are my most hectic work day, as you both know, because we've really struggled to schedule this podcast because not only is Monday a very hectic work day for me, so I've really struggled to make it to very many meetings lately. Though I've loved getting a chance when invited to come do educational things. I actually one of the clients that I work with regularly now is somebody who took my NA class. I'm still working on finding a way to transition my like art of the balance non-alcoholic cocktail class to something that can be more of a workshop or be something that is more available to the public, because as NA rises more in the consciousness, people are also wanting to include it as the way that they host at home. But when it comes to, I've taught a lot of coffee classes to the public, and it's kind of a little bit easier when there's only maybe 3 or 4 ingredients that you're ever working with, as you are in coffee, to assess where somebody's at and bring them into it. But having to give somebody a whole background on all of the types of cocktails and the builds and how they work, and then kind of counter with, and here's what you should do instead, is proving a little bit of an operational challenge.
Um, what was my original? Oh, are you still involved in the Bartenders Guild? Sorry.
Bartenders Guild. Not expressly specifically right now, but I love the USBG, and they're the reason why I am where I am today. Because when I wanted to transition from coffee, I went to a couple of meetings. I met a couple of really wonderful people, and I found an excellent home right very early on. Maggie DiGiovanni gave me my first job in the industry as a bar back at Barrio, and then everything shut down for COVID, and Stampede posted on Facebook on the USBG page that they were hiring, and Maggie called my name out immediately, and 2 weeks later, I was on the team.
Amazing. Good old Bartender's Guild. It makes me think of like the Adventurers Guild in a sci-fi book or, like fantasy book.
Guilds.
Yeah, guilds. The Blacksmiths Guild.
Well, I was also part of a team of people who were working towards baristas' rights in 2019, and then we kind of ended up disbanding due to COVID. But it was exactly the kind of thing of, you want guilds, you want people talking about, hey, what have you noticed in the city? What have you noticed is going on? How are you solving this problem? How should we work together to get the best solutions for this?
Do you still teach classes actively?
I do want to get an opportunity. It is more of a, if somebody asks, hey, do you want to teach a class? I almost always say yes. At the moment, I'm not actively teaching anywhere regularly, but it is something that I'd like to continue to do and do more of and kind of develop that skill set even more, because nothing is better than teaching somebody who wanted to learn something new. That little light of recognition. Love it.
Well, we'll have people follow you, and then if you teach something, you can post about it on IG. It's at something worth sipping. Is that right?
At something worth sipping. I unfortunately do not post nearly as much as I should, but who knows? That might change any day now.
If you teach a class, maybe people can find out about it that way. Should we talk about what we ate, Jeff?
Yeah, let's go into what we ate.
You haven't talked in a while. Why don't you talk?
That's not true. I've been talking plenty, but I am happy to talk about what I ate. I went to 19 Golds, which is once again in Fremont, where I live. And I went pretty much right after we had the last podcast taping, because you guys were making the food sound so good. And I was like, man, I want to go eat some good food. And so this is something I've gotten before, but it's something I really love. They specialize in malatang. I hope I'm saying that right. I think my brief research today said that it was initially Chinese. I think like along the Yangtze River, it's like a Szechuan type of broth situation. I think it was like a street food where there's like skewers that are placed in the broth and people can just like kind of take those out. And like, that's how they eat the street food, but they serve this as it's adjacent to ramen. So it's like with vermicelli noodles, and there's a bunch of different like veggies. And this is one thing I kind of like about it. It's like a whole like kitchen sink situation. Like I'm going to kind of read to you all the stuff that they throw in here. So cabbage, bean sprouts, broccoli, lotus root, which is really nice. It's like sliced and it's like hard. I love the texture. Tofu and tofu skin, enoki mushroom, quail eggs, kelp knot, potato, corn, which is like it's like an ear of corn that's been chopped into like fourths, so you get like a little like segment of an ear of corn,
wheels of corn. Yeah. And
then the real hitters come last: crab meat stick, which is just a stick of crab meat, lobster ball, which kind of feels like a shumai, just like just floating down there, like you're like a fisherman. Like you have your chopsticks and you're like, oh, like what's going on in here? Like, oh, I snagged a lotus root, or like, oh yeah, I found the lobster ball. Like it's such an adventure and I love it.
It's like the baby and the king cake.
Yeah. So yeah, honestly, this is my favorite soup because I just love, it's fun to eat. Which apparently is a big deal for me because I'm like a child. But no, it's like we talked about Szechuan last week. Like it's just such a great use of Szechuan pepper, and 19 Gold is named that because it's based off of like the 19 functional ingredients or like spices that they put in the broth. And the broth is presumably the gold, so that's why it's called that. But yeah, awesome. worth naming a restaurant after because the broth is incredible and so is the soup. So I love that place, 19 Gold in Fremont.
It's the right season for it. I walked by it the other day, but I was like, God damn it, I haven't been there yet. So now I have to go.
I want to add, because I noticed you and Mark are so good at this as writers. When I looked up what their deal was, they opened a new place recently in 2025 in Bothell. And it's a self-service malatang place, which is also like what's traditional in, I would assume, Taiwan and in China too.
Yeah.
Where like you go in and they advertise that they have over 80 ingredients that you can choose from. And it seems like you take your ingredients and you bring it to the front and they put it in the bowl and they like add it to the broth and simmer it for a while, and then it's priced out by weight. So that kind of seems like, besides the street food way, that's like a more traditional way that people in Asia would eat malatang, which I think is really cool. It almost reminds me of like frozen yogurt, but for soup.
Yeah, exactly. The country's best malatang. That's perfect for Mark because he's from Bothell, so his family lives up there.
There you go. You guys got to go. Honestly, like it's.
You should
such
take
good
his
soup.
Irish, Italian, Catholic family out for Molotov. I'm sure they'd love it. The DeJoy family eats Molotov.
Lobster ball exploration.
Anything else?
No, I think that's my one for the week.
Kayleigh, did you eat anything this week?
I'm not going to lie and say that it was this week, but there was a particular restaurant that I wanted to give a call out because it's kind of one of my favorite and a really unique experience and dining experience across the board, which is Three Sacks Full in Roosevelt. I don't know if you've got
it great.
there yet.
I love them. I went to a media event there once, and so it was a very curated meal, but beautiful, beautiful place.
Oh, and it's always wonderful. My parents have only visited Seattle a couple of times, and one of the meals that I definitely had to bring them to was Three Sacks Full, which is fun. My dad is an adventurous eater. My mom historically is not. And like, if you've eaten there, you know that they actually use a lot of farm to table ingredients and foraged ingredients, and their food is not, like crazy fatty and salty and rich, which is something that's really wonderful every once in a while when you go out, but getting to eat a meal that is that incredibly done, like really humble ingredients, often cooked in a way that makes you reconsider what they can be, and then like to physically feel good after because it wasn't heavy. Like there were green beans that were just absolutely incredible, and I remember the first time being there with this lovely like rustic loaf of bread, and it was like, I think it was like a potato and some kind of white fish thing, and there was this like that same moment you have when you carry laundry on your hips and you go, yes, this is what my body was built for. Like I felt like
your body was built to eat at Three Sacks Full.
Yeah, my ancestors were like, yes, you should be eating potatoes and fish with rustic bread, and I'm like, okay, good to know.
Wow.
And also just the owners, Matthew and Michael, are just such lovely people, so passionate about what they do. So
great wine.
Yeah.
Beautiful space. They have a cool like chalkboard menu with little cute drawings. Yeah.
Yeah,
lovely,
and
lovely
most
place.
of the time, the Psalm owner Matthew is the one who's doing those chalk drawings, except for the ones currently, which were done by. They're these really incredible. He's also a huge lover of art, and there's these really incredible quilted pieces. They're these big quilted tapestries that are hanging on the wall. And so he had the artist draw it out, and she was a little bit, if I'm remembering the story correctly, a little bit intimidated. Being like, oh, I don't know with the chalk or anything, but it all looks really lovely. And they change out the art every once in a while, and some of it are Matthew's own work.
No, I gotta go back. Did you eat anything else? Just that spot?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest one right now. Unfortunately, I've been very busy lately, so there's been a lot of bars in my life.
I'll take it. If you had said I didn't go anywhere, that'd be cool too. You know why? Because I got 4. I got 4 of them. First, I went to Proof Tacoma. Proof Tacoma pops up at night in like a corporate coffee shop when they close. They're in Old Town Tacoma, and it's high level cocktailing for Tacoma. Tacoma does not have true craft cocktails except for a few exceptions. Like there's the Boom Boom Room. They do a good job. There's a place that does like really traditional Trader Vic's style cocktails, but I wouldn't call them craft cocktails, you know. But they were doing really interesting stuff. They had chocolate milk washed bourbon. They had a really nice charred pineapple falernum. They had a cocktail that was beeswax and apple blossom washed Japanese whiskey, which sounded gross, but the texture was really interesting because it had beeswax in it. They had acid-corrected fluffy orange. I don't even know what that is, but I bet you guys know. What's that? Fluffy orange?
Yeah.
It's like an orange juice foam. But it was also acid-corrected. This is way beyond me. I've never attended bar, but it next leveled my brain.
I've never heard something called acid corrected as opposed to acid adjusted.
Same.
It feels more harsh. It's like, have more acid, you stupid orange.
Right. You fucked up big time. Yeah. I agree.
I think also working in craft cocktail that was also volume, Jeff and I never really messed around with foams all that much.
Okay.
Yeah.
I understand. Yeah. No, I get it.
We're doing more foams at the rooftop bar for sure. So I feel like I'm getting into the foam game. And sorry for getting us off track again.
No,
but speaking of foams, one of the people behind the bar made like a meringue basically that you would then like torch at the pass to like, you know, you do it right there, and it's like freshly torched when you bring it to the table. I've seen people try to do that in like 3 different bars I've worked at in the past. And the way that this person did it, like, made all those other attempts look so foolish, because it was like a perfect consistency. They just took it like right out of the ISI and just like swirled it right on top of this like lemony vodka drink that was just like, you know, not trying to recreate the wheel or anything. Like there's going to be meringue, so just do like lemon and vodka and call it a day. And then they torched it and it was like the perfect like brown on top, like immediately. There was no like, man, like why isn't this working, or like the consistency's not right. It was just like boom, you nailed it the first time. So
I did do a brulee lavender sugar on top of like an ISI custard that I made for an NA drink once, but it wasn't firm enough to have its own peaks because it was a little bit more like, it was more like a custard than a meringue.
that's what I'm saying. I feel like everybody's like, oh, these aren't the peaks that I'm used to in a lemon meringue. And then this guy put it out of the ISI, and I was like, these are the peaks that I'm used to in a lemon meringue. Oh my God.
Jeff, are you contributing cocktails at Feared? Like, are you writing? Are you making them up? What was the word? Creating them? What would you say?
I would say contributing, because I'm not really doing anything from start to finish. It's mostly like just when people ask for my input, or every once in a while they'll be like, oh, I wish we had a drink like this, and I'll start thinking like, well, I can probably make a drink like that. But you know, it's more just I like to support people that are more active in their cocktail making journey, or that have more responsibility put on them to make those cocktails. You know, it's like instead of just being like, you know, them assigning me their whole deal, being like, you have to make this cocktail and this kind of a cocktail, it seems like they just kind of already know what they want and they just want help with that. So I really enjoy that structure of making a cocktail menu as well.
It's a team cocktail.
But anyway, we got to get back to all the stuff that you did.
Two more. We were driving down the street in like Parkland or Lakewood, and we saw something that said Zesty Steakhouse, and we pulled over. It had a giant crab on the outside, and we're like, we're going. It was an old Black Angus, as it turned out, and it was Asian seafood boil with like a boomer band singing Mustang Sally. Like, it was real corny, and we were kind of in a bad mood, and it just lightened our day. And I got like a terrible.
That sounds rad. It
was great. We got like 2 Dungeless clusters, and Steven is a spicy guy, and we got a 4, and it was way too spicy for me. I feel like I can handle a significant amount of spice, and this was a lot, and I'm not complaining because I actually picked the 4. He would have gone for lower for me. It was fucking spicy. I got a terrible sangria that was mostly orange juice and like shitty white wine with tons of fruit on it. I was so happy. Highly recommend Zesty. What's that?
You want something sweet like that if you're eating something real spicy.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's a good point. It was fine. Everything, it was a perfect experience because it was silly and corny. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's Dungeness crab, so you can't fuck up a Dungeness crab, really.
Have you followed up with Steven about the vindictive wings conversation we had last time?
No, I need to do that. I'm sure that you're right. When I listen to the pod, I'm like, what the fuck am I talking about? Of course I'm not getting him Carolina Reaper wings every single time. That would be crazy.
I guess we kind of settled it at the end when you were like, yeah. I would be able to smell it. And you definitely would have been able to smell it.
Right. Mm-hmm. Now I'm going to do that, but I think you're right.
I still believe he's a very spicy guy, and I want to see... I'm curious about the levels of spiciness that one man can
you guys should hang out and outspice each other. You can be the Spice Boys. And then... Oh, there was this teriyaki place in the neighborhood that got bought. It was under new ownership, and it was called Mimi Teriyaki No. 2. Wasn't very good before, but we went in. Oh, because the guy was out on the street handing out little cups of garlic chicken in a little cuppy cup to the cars. And when we drove by, he was like, hey, roll down the window. Here's some little cuppies. And we were like, okay, man, whatever. Free food, we'll take it. And we took it, and like we slurped up the garlic chicken, and it was incredible. And I was like, all right, we're going back there. And they had some weird signs outside, like banners that said, eat here or we'll both starve. I was like, wow, like, yikes, but true, I guess. So we went in, and it was new ownership. It was still teriyaki, but I feel like the menu was really katsu focused. And so Steven got a Nashville hot chicken sandwich for $8. It was huge, and it came with fries. And I got a katsu with their special katsu sauce that was sort of like teriyaki mayonnaise with something red in it. But it was very good katsu. It was a shit ton of food. It came with 2 sides. They did like stir-fried green beans as an option, and like those pickled cucumber cinnamon salad. It was amazing. I was very pleased with this like neighborhood teriyaki spot. And so now I want to eat all the katsu. I love katsu. And then finally there's one other thing. What is it? Did I write it down? Oh, I went to Freelard Tamales, which I'd never been to. A friend invited me.
Yeah,
We had a middle of the day tamal party, and I got the jalapeno and cheese, and it was good. They all got like the rice and beans and many, many beers, and I realized that I had had rice and beans before, and that it was going to be a ton of food. So I just got the a la carte tamal, which was huge. It was a monster.
Tamales are huge. They're
massive, yeah.
Average ones.
We all had like a day drinking party on a Tuesday or something. It was fun. So I'll go back there for sure.
That does make me want to bring up two other ones, which I was like, should I?
Sure.
Okay.
Good.
It is a local one in my neighborhood that I just go to all the time, which is Pink Bee.
Oh yeah, they're great.
Pink Bee's great. It's always really consistent. It's always really good customer service. They're one of the few places that I can call and just tell them what my order is, and they say 15 minutes, and I go, and it's 15 minutes, and it's just really consistent every time. And then of course Ink Drinker that just opened in the neighborhood as well.
I haven't been yet. How is it?
It's phenomenal. Like the drinks are so well thought through, not only in like what the cocktails themselves are, but like the backstory and history of each one, because it is a book focused bar, and it's also like queer and women of color, largely, that are in charge of menu making and ownership. So much of it is like so thoughtful. They really wanted to make a really great space, and you can see how much everybody who is part of that bar really loves it. And it's been so gratifying to see it just like full night after night whenever I walk by on my way to the gym.
You know, I spent a lot of time at the Ballard Beer Company before because I worked for a company who liked to go to that happy hour, so we would have a work happy hour there, but there wasn't much to it. So there's so much potential in that space. I'm excited to see what they've done with it.
Yeah, they also do, they're also very dedicated to making really good NA drinks. And when I went in to talk to them about it, they're like, oh, we've already got these things. What do you think? And they were really good. And,
awesome.
I think we're in a weird era right now with NA where it used to be nobody had anything, it was all bad, and then there was like 4 places that had stuff, and if they bothered to have stuff, it was going to be really good. And now it's kind of expected that everybody have it. So much like with the cocktail dark ages, it's kind of hard to parse out who's going to have stuff that's good,
right?
Or like if something's good, unless you can really look at the menu beforehand. So when you come across something and it's really good,
yeah, that's always gratifying. I think that's it for me. Do you guys want to have anything else you want to plug or mention? Or
no, I think that was a pretty comprehensive discussion about the things we ate.
Yeah,
we did it. Well, I was about to wrap up. I'm like, well, thanks for coming, but maybe you want to mention some of it. Sounds like you don't. Kayleigh, thank you for joining us. It's cute to watch you two. Like, you go way back and it's obvious. It's really fun. I'm just like, I'm gonna shut the fuck up and let these guys just like reminisce.